Cowboys away. And the most intriguing team remains the third team drafting. That's the Giants, who held private workouts since last we spoke with Shedeur Sanders and Tyler Shuck and Jalen Milroe. They're scheduled to pick. The Giants are at 3. They have a pair of third-round picks at 65 and 99. That's important because it gives them ammunition to sort of maneuver their way around the board if they decide that's what they want to do. So Orlovsky's up with us early and D Wood is up early. But Graz, we start with you. The question everyone is asking, what are the Giants doing at 3? Because it feels like everything else hinges on that.
I still think the most likely outcome at 3 is that they draft Abdul or Travis Hunter, whichever one the Browns haven't taken at 2. And is still there, and that they address quarterback later. Now, does that mean they would wait till pick 34 to address it? Or could they use, as you mentioned, some of those extra picks to move back up into the end of round 1 if a quarterback they like is sliding toward them? Will they even need to do that? Are quarterbacks going to start flying off the board in round 1 like they usually do? It's possible they do not, and that the Browns at 33 and the Giants at 34 can sit tight and get the guy they like. So I don't think you can rule anything out completely at this point. If they take Shedeur Sanders at number 3, I think most people I talk to at this point would be very surprised.
What would you say, D. Wood? You live there in New Jersey. You hear the daily conversation. Do you believe the Giants should take a quarterback at 3, or should they take Travis Hunter or Abdul, whichever one is sitting there?
No, I think you got to take the impact player at 3. We heard at the end of the year, in the end of the year press conference, owner John Mara, his patience is basically worn out. He wants to win now, and I think if you're the guys that's running the show, Joe Shane and company with the New York Giants, you need guys that's going to impact on the field right now. So between Abdul or Travis Hunter, you need one of those guys at number 3, and then obviously you can address the quarterback position in the second round via either staying pat in the second round or possibly trading up. But you need an impact player right off the top at number 3.
Okay, so let me set the stage for Orlovsky here and the conversation. So as I have been putting sort of the finishing touches on getting ready for all of this, there is no question that this is the biggest pressure point in the draft.
Yep.
What happens at 3, Danny, is going to change literally everything that comes afterwards, because then you've got the Saints sitting there at 9, and then you've got the Steelers at 21, and then you've got the cavalcade of contenders that are waiting and watching. Are the quarterbacks going off the board, or are they not? If they are, you might start to see a rush on them. If they're not, it could be a very long wait into Friday night before some of these names go. As you sit and watch the quarterback situation play out, Dan, what thoughts do you have on this Monday?
Well, number one, the Giants have to get a quarterback in their first 2 picks of this draft, whether it's at number 3 or early in the second round or trading back into the first round. Number 2, there's no there's no general manager and head coach in a more difficult and worse situation than Joe Shane and Brian Daboll. And everyone knows how much I love Brian Daboll, because the reality is this. By nature, head coach, general manager, they want to do what's best for the football team. It's kind of how they're made. The Giants and Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, they're in a situation where they kind of have to do what's best for them. And that's the really difficult part about it, because they have to save their job by mid-November. And let's be honest, no pick at number 3 other than a quarterback is going to do that. No pick at number 3. Abdul Carter's not going to save their job. He might be a transcendent player. He's not going to save their job. Travis Hunter, I love. He's not going to save their job. They have to find a quarterback early in this draft, again, in their top 2 picks, that organization, that ownership's going to go, yeah, we got the right guy, and we have the right coach and general manager to build with him and around him for the future. So I don't think it's going to be Shedeur, but do I think that they have to get a Jackson Dart or Jalen Milroe relatively by the 40th pick of the draft? I do.
Which one are you betting? If it's your job you're betting on, Dan, which one of those guys are you betting it on? Out of all the options, take out Cam Ward.
Yeah, I would take Jackson Dart mid-first round. That's the guy that I would take.
Wow. I'm hearing a lot of that, and we're going to get a little later in this hour into the possibility that all the talk about Shedeur Sanders, he might not even be the second pick in this draft, but mid-first round. I mean, the point I'm trying to get across, and I hope I'm doing a good job of it, is what the Giants do at 3. I can see a scenario, Dan, where we have 4 or 5 quarterbacks going around 1, and I can see a scenario where we have 2 and maybe even on
a scenario we have one.
Some outlandish possibility which we have one, and I feel it all starts at number 3.
Yeah, look, the Giants, obviously, to Dan's point, I mean, they want to be competitive. They signed Russell Wilson.
Right.
They feel, I mean, if they don't get a quarterback that is going to start right away, that they can play Russell Wilson, and Abdul Carter will make their defense fairly unstoppable up front. So that's at least the theory. Daniel Jones was the 6th pick in the draft by the Giants. Obviously a previous administration, but this is an administration that dealt with the consequences of him not being the guy that should have been picked number 6. They don't want to make a similar mistake at 3 this year. And when you talk to people around the league, the number 2 quarterback in this year's draft, whoever that is, they say would have probably been the 6th or 7th quarterback in last year's draft. So do you want to push it at 3, or can you address it a little later on?
Go ahead, Danny.
Yeah, this makes a bigger conversation. To Graz's point, Daniel Jones at 6. The Giants got killed because they paid Daniel Jones the amount of money that they did, not because they swung on him at 6 and missed. That's a different conversation. Number 2, this is why I like Dart or Milroe a little bit more to the Giants than Shedeur. I think Shedeur is in the mold of quarterback that you win with, that is going to need good scheme to a really good scheme, really good offensive line protection, really good perimeter players. Think the Saints, because the Giants in the last 2 years, their quarterbacks have been sacked the most, and their quarterback has been under pressure the most. The Giants need athletic at quarterback. That's just the reality of where they are right now. And so if you're the Giants, taking Shedeur Sanders at 3 and putting him behind an offensive line that still hasn't proven that you're good enough, and while Malik Neighbors is really good, and I like Slayton, it's not elite perimeter players when it comes to the 1-2 combination. That's a bad recipe, where if you take Jackson Dart or you take Jalen Milroe and you have the improved athleticism and you can get away from an offensive line that's not good enough to protect your quarterback just yet, that's the better situation when it comes to the combination. Shedeur Sanders should not want to go to number 3. Shedeur Sanders, if we're just being real, should want to go to the Saints over the Giants because of the combination of that stuff.
Isn't that interesting? Isn't it interesting that maybe getting drafted earlier isn't always the best thing that can happen to you? We'll have that conversation as the morning continues. Plus, is there a world in which Shedeur isn't even the 2nd quarterback off the board? Spoiler alert, the answer is definitively yes. We will tell you why. And it is a huge week for the Pittsburgh Steelers. What on earth are they going to do at quarterback? Danny thinks that Pittsburgh may just have to pivot to a plan. D Wood's fired up to get into it. We'll have all that and a whole lot more on one of the biggest weeks of the sports year. It's Get